Okay, so apparently people aren't really understanding what's actually going on. Trying to convince me that I created this situation I'm in. And I suppose to some degree I did. And, of course, the reason being cited are several reasons. One of which, the fact that I cheated. And the other was the person reading things that I stated in relation to my relationship and assuming that those abusive behaviors were the things that I did. Of course, I know this person's just being a troll, but I'm having a hard time holding my tongue because I was abused during our relationship. No, she didn't hit me. She didn't. But that's not the only form of abuse. And they're like, well, the things that she did to you, it's because you cheated on her, okay? Except there's a problem with that. The behaviors she exhibited were consistent throughout our relationship. Going back to before I ever cheated on her, before I even thought about another woman or looked at another woman. Well, during our relationship. Before we were together, yeah, of course I looked at other women. We weren't together. You cannot blame me for the consequence of an action that didn't exist yet. She tried to isolate me from my family and friends before I ever even looked at another woman. Immediately after we got married, I'm talking like the same week, she started withholding and withdrawing affection. It wasn't super drastic yet. And I was going to wait till after the divorce so this didn't, cause me problems in the court. But I've had enough of people bullying me on her behalf. People are defending the abuser and attacking the victim. Yes, I know I've said in past videos that I did things that were abusive, okay? I yelled, I got mad, I raged, and yes, those are all things that are wrong. But she tried to control the money. The very same week we got married is when that started. She immediately started trying to isolate me from my friends and family. She would criticize the fact that I had no money, which she knew that going in. I guess she was expecting as soon as we got married that I was suddenly going to become rich or some nonsense. I don't know, that's probably an exaggeration, but the point is, I asked her one time, it's like, why is it that the moment we got married, that same week, we were still on our honeymoon, why did you start behaving this way toward me? Well, because you didn't seem to want to go get a job, which I had a job at the time, I just didn't make much because I just went from being single to having a wife. Anyway, she said, I didn't seem like I wanted to try to provide for her. We were still on our honeymoon when she said that. Over the course of our relationship, she took friends from me. I lost friends. She took friends from me. She drove me away from my family. Basically, not in so many words, telling me my family or her. I made the wrong decision, by the way. I ended up getting 3 jobs. 2 of them were full-time. This is at one particular point. And during our 16-year marriage, I was jobless 3 times. Most recent being when I was the stay-at-home dad. She's got people convinced that while she was working over this last year, that I was just sitting around doing nothing. I wasn't the one cooking the meals for the household. I wasn't the one making sure the kids were sent off to the bus. I actually escorted them out to the bus. I stayed with them. I wasn't the one that welcomed them home, every time they got home from school. I wasn't the one helping them with their homework or anything. I wasn't the one washing dishes and cleaning what I could of the house while taking care of dogs and working on cars and doing side work as a motorcycle mechanic. No, I wasn't doing any of that. I'm absolutely fed up with people hearing one side of a story and thinking they know something. I had 3 jobs at one point in time, 2 of them full-time. I would regularly go a week without sleep. At the last bit, before I started quitting those jobs, I ended up going 2 weeks without sleep, and it almost killed me. At this point, I kind of wish it had. I'm tired of being abused by people, which has occurred over the course of my entire life. This is just the cherry on top. And then having to defend myself against people who weren't there. She's making herself out to be a victim. She takes things that some I didn't even do, other things that happened before she and I ever even got together. And she tries to take traits that are common with people with ADHD and use those to gaslight me into thinking I'm a narcissist. Which again, I've been diagnosed, I'm not a narcissist. I'm borderline, and there is a huge difference. Some of the behaviors are the same, the reasons are different. Narcissistic people are self-centered and egotistical. They want the whole world to believe that they are superior. That's why they will create a situation and play the victim / hero, but never the villain. Sound familiar? Narcissists don't take accountability. They make other people take accountability. It was only when I put my foot down and set a boundary and expressed a standard, I will no longer allow you to treat me like I don't matter to you, and you need to take accountability for the things that you do that are wrong. When that conversation started happening was when everything really went downhill. It was actually worse when that started than when she found out that I cheated on her. She's trying to take my kids from me through the court system. And her reasoning? Because there were times that I got mad and yelled. At the kids, yes. Yelled at the kids. And I actually cussed at a couple of them. Very, very unhappy with the fact I did that. And I went back right after it happened each time. And I apologized to those kids. I tried to make it better. And I know that doing that will leave a lasting impression on those kids for the rest of their lives. I know that for a reason. It's not just assumption. But that is her entire basis for wanting my kids taken from me. Supervised visitation. For those of you who don't know what reactive abuse is, it is whenever somebody is violating your boundaries so frequently and so intensely that you react in a coarse and violent manner. Gaslighting is probably the fastest way to get there with me. Telling me that my reality isn't real, what I'm seeing isn't there. What I know to be true is a lie. What I've actually discovered and seen with my own eyes isn't real. I have caught her in lies. And while catching her in lies, she's telling me she doesn't lie and isn't lying. And I will point out the proof that she is lying. And she'll say, no, I'm still not lying, even though that's the proof. I have tried so hard to be nice to her. And every single ounce of civility has been met and answered with hostility, anger, fury, accusation, threat. You can't help the abuser abuse the victim and think you're on the right side. You hear a half a story. Well, she's not even telling her whole half the story. She's only telling the parts that make me look bad. Whatever. I know what I did. I know exactly what I did. And once this divorce is final, and we go on about our lives, I'm going to make a full disclosure of everything she and I both did. I won't use any names. If you figure out her name on your own, so be it. It's not slander, and it's not defamation if I don't use a name. But I am going to give you every single horrid detail on both sides of the story. But I will no longer allow people to help her abuse me. If you decide that you want to help her bully and abuse me, I will report you and I will block you. Now, on the subject of work, I have done manual labor jobs while dying. Obviously, I didn't actually die, but I've done manual labor jobs while dying. I've worked in places that were hostile toward me. I got jobs I never would have gotten for myself, just for the money, because without that money, she was never going to be happy. We were buying a house together, 20-year note. At this point, I kind of regret paying the house off early because we paid it off in 3 years. We used our income tax return to pay off the principal in 3 years. That was my strategy. She wanted to work on the house with that money, which isn't a bad thing. But what's the point in putting money in a house if you end up not being able to afford it afterwards? Then you lose the house and all the money you put into it. Ask me how I know. Anyway. It was my strategy, plus our collective income tax return checks. A large portion of it came from my income. That's what paid that house off in 3 years. And the crazy thing is, when she found out that I cheated on her, I asked her. No, I didn't even ask her. I told her, if you leave, I understand. I won't hold it against you. I knew what I did. And I knew the consequences of what I did. But she said, I want to stay. I'm not going to leave. I want to work it out. Well, she stayed. She didn't try and work it out. She just wanted me to continue to change, which I was happy to change all those rotten things that made me do stupid stuff. All the trauma from childhood. All the things that made me need things that weren't good for me or the people around me. I hunted those things down. I changed them. Just like it should be. I want enough for her. She told me she wanted me to get rid of my hobbies. Every time I went somewhere, she got suspicious, which to a degree I can understand. We were still paying for the house for a while. Well, the house finally got paid off in 22. No, yeah, in 22. As soon as the house got paid off, her demeanor changed. All of a sudden, she was more hostile, less affectionate, if you can believe it, less agreeable, and more domineering. A year later, we're divorced, or getting divorced. There's no way that can be a coincidence, especially since everything that happened for the year after, everything she did for the year after the house was paid off, was pushing everything in the direction to get me out of the way. Until last year, our kids were homeschooled. So, until about August or September of 23, after I quit my job to take care of the kids, I was the one teaching them too. I had 4 kids at the house that I was teaching, feeding 3 meals while cleaning, taking care of animals, fixing vehicles for myself, my wife, and work on the side. On top of responsibilities away from the home. Then she isolated me from herself. So, if you people decide that you want to defend somebody, make sure you know who you're defending instead of just assuming something. Just because she's a woman doesn't make her innocent, and it certainly doesn't just make her the victim. There's a woman I know of in Colorado right now that she brags regularly about having men sent to prison on false accusations of sexual assault. Women are not innocent just because they're women. And men are not guilty just because they're men. Sometimes the victim looks like the abuser because that's the way the abuser wants it. And if anybody wants to accuse me of slander, first of all, a name has to be attached to it. And second, perhaps instead of trying to silence me because I'm tired of being bullied by her, look at her and say, hey, these toxic actions are wrong. But that's not going to happen. The enablers, the flying monkeys of the abusive person will never ever tell that person that they're wrong. Before people start accusing me of making my friends and family my flying monkeys, those people regularly check me. Tell me, hey, this isn't right. Or hey, this is a better way to do it. Or hey, leave that alone because if you don't, it's stupid. Or hey, this thing you're doing makes you an idiot. And that's how you know you have good friends. They're people who don't just accept your bad behaviors because they're your friend. That's not a friend. That's somebody who's using you. If they're using you, they don't care how you act as long as you don't act that way toward them. Friends care how you act. My friends correct me. My friends check me. My family, they correct me. My family, they check me. I don't see any of her friends and family doing that. This person on Facebook who has decided that he's going to be her knight in shining armor, which again, I have suspicions of who it is. All they are is what you'd call a simp. For whatever reason, and I, again, have my suspicions, that person has decided that they're going to defend her. Defend the honor of the person who's being abused. See, here's the thing. Most victims stay silent. And I did. For most of our relationship. I stayed silent and just dealt with stuff. Lost friends. Lost family members. Because of it. Because I let her twist my mind up. And then I said nothing about it. I'm not going to be silenced anymore. Period. And I really think that one of the reasons why our relationship was so tumultuous was because I wasn't just going to lay down and take it. And the funny thing is and this is something that people need to take to heart. If your spouse, your significant other, tells you that they're the only person you need in your life, they tell you that you don't need friends and you don't need family, just that person, leave. Correcting them won't fix it. Telling them they're wrong won't fix it. Proving it won't fix it. Because one day that person will throw you away because you're not good enough for them in their mind. And you never will be. Doesn't matter how rich, handsome, or forgiving or considerate of them that you are. You will never be good enough. In the end, when they throw you away, it's the people they tried to isolate you from that are going to catch you. Because that is what happened to me. All the people that she tried to isolate me from, all my friends and family that she tried to make me throw away to make her more comfortable, those are the people who caught me when she threw me away. They're the ones helping me recover. They're the ones helping me deal with it. If only people knew the truth. The problem is, though, and this is a quote from Harry Morgan, playing Colonel Potter on The MASH, problem with speeches is you end up convincing your friends, boring your enemies. So this ends up being an us versus them thing. Because instead of being a grown-up and taking accountability for the things that she does wrong and continues to do wrong to this day, things that started at the beginning of the relationship, the beginning of the marriage. We were together for 6 months before we got married. And that 6 months was amazing. Best relationship ever. Turned it into a nightmare almost immediately when we got married. So, yeah. She needs to be a grown-up. Take accountability for the things that she does wrong. Until she does that, it will always be a battle. So I won't let anybody walk on me anymore. And she's not going to accept it until I'm buried. So, if people want to fight me, find me. Otherwise, keep your mouth shut. You keyboard warriors, you're cowards. If you want to fight me, come find me. If you're not willing to do that, shut up. For the rest of you who really just want to be able to recover from the very same thing, just tag along. I'm not going to be in this position forever. Oh, on a more positive note, getting away from my tirade, I went and talked to the guy who gave me a job offer. It's on commission. It's working on cars and motorcycles. And every job I complete, I get paid for. And crazy thing is, if it's a job I complete on my own, I get all of the money for it. If it's a job that he and I complete together, then I get a portion of it. We never discussed percentages or anything like that. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. It looks promising. I love working on bikes. Not quite as fun with cars, but I don't mind that either. I love working on bikes. And I think I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to have to probably have some financial help for a little while till I actually get some money, because this $125 every 2 weeks is definitely not going to cut it. This was just meant to tide me over until I can get something more substantial. And I'm hoping that this thing I'm talking about is the more substantial. I'm still waiting on a response from the other person who gave me the other job offer. It's possible that these are all things that I could do in concert. Make as much money as I can without overstressing myself. Because again, I'll never go through this again. Anyway, don't sacrifice your values. Don't let anybody cross your boundaries without consequence. And hold to your standards. Even if you don't deserve those standards, because at the very least, you won't accept anything less than what you do deserve. So, you'll have a good evening. And if you're not willing to stand nose to nose with me and fight me over your words, keep your words to yourself.